Hello again, everybody. I'm Roger Hoover. Glad to welcome you back to the Crimson Tide Sports Network, and it's time to preview the College Football Playoff National Championship game with The Other Booth. It is presented to you by U.S. Wellness Meats. You can eat like a champion with U.S. Wellness Meats, grass-fed, pasture-raised at U.S. Wellness Meats. Their animals eat right, so you can too. Visit them at uswellnessmeats.com and save 15% by using the promo code BAMA. Well, it's Alabama against Ohio State for the National Championship next week in Miami, Florida, and we're joined now by the voice of the Buckeyes, Paul Keels. And Paul, it's an exciting time. Alabama and Ohio State meeting for the national championship. How's everything going in Columbus?
Well, everybody's excited, as you imagine, Roger. It's been crazy this year with off and on football from the Big Ten. A reduced schedule when you consider the games that Ohio State had canceled, both because of their own issues with the virus and opposing teams. So, but it's been the win over Clemson got a big monkey off the back. Ohio State had never beaten Clemson. So there's a lot of excitement and anticipation for this game.
What was the reaction from people around the program or Ohio State fans to some of the national narrative that was out there about Ohio State and the Big Ten not playing enough games to really earn a playoff spot? Obviously, they showed they earned it with the victory against Clemson, but what was kind of the mood heading into the Sugar Bowl?
I think everybody knew that was a possible discussion that would occur because of the reduced number of games, and a lot of it, again, ties back to what the Big Ten did, postponing or canceling the season, then restarting it, and then actually starting it a week later than everybody thought, really leaving no wiggle room for postponed games to be rescheduled. So it was kind of expected, but also I think a lot of people here thought if the same would have happened to Alabama or Clemson, certainly people would have understood, even with a reduced number of games, that those were two teams like Ohio State that had the potential to be clubs that should be in the playoff and the ability to very possibly do what Ohio State and Alabama have done right now.
What impressed you the most about the game we saw from Ohio State against Clemson?
I thought, Roger, a lot of people expected if Ohio State was going to win, it would be a close back-and-forth game and maybe a final drive and a final play. For them to win as decisively as they did is what really surprised everybody. And if you take away a turnover and some other things, it could have been an even wider margin of victory. A lot of that has to do with how well Clemson had played all year. And also that Ohio State played far better than they had in any previous game during the season. They really showed the ability to control a game against Clemson like they had not shown against teams all year. So that was probably the part that was most pleasantly surprising.
Everybody raving, of course, about Justin Fields and the performance he put together even after the big hit, able to stay in the ball game, and even Crimson Tide players have just talked about the toughness they saw to him. Just what did you make of his performance against the Clemson?
Well, that was one thing that got talked about a lot, the toughness he showed. That was quite a hit that James Skalski put on him, and you could tell even through the rest of the game that Justin was in quite a bit of pain and discomfort. The fact that he played at that kind of level, we've fortunately, Roger's seen that before. Not so much this year of the shortened season, but saw it in large doses last year. But just the fact that he was able to play so tough and get through that and play at a high level. But I think when you look at what he did, it really symbolizes what the whole team kind of went through that night. They, without making it an individual thing, they really wanted an opportunity at Clemson again. They felt like they had a missed opportunity with a game they lost to Clemson last year. They didn't make enough plays themselves. They didn't capitalize in the red zone when they should have. So they wanted another opportunity, and what you saw Justin Fields do and the way he played, it kind of symbolized what the whole team wanted.
The offense certainly did its part, scoring a lot of touchdowns against Clemson, but then the defense really clamped down a very good Clemson offense, especially shutting down the running game and Travis Etienne. What did you see out of the Buckeyes defense?
Well, this is a defense that there were a lot of questions, in a good way, a lot of questions about it coming into the season. You lose a defensive lineman like Chase Young, and there really wasn't an indication that there would be a standout headline name defensive line type of player. And there really hasn't been, but there have been guys that have made major contributions. Jonathan Cooper is a fifth-year senior. Tommy Togiai is a guy that, has just come in and played with incredible brute strength and technique. Haskell Garrett's been the most amazing story. Earlier this summer, this young man was shot in the face. He had a bullet that went in one cheek and went through the other, and was able to be ready to play the very first game of the year against Nebraska, and has played at a high level all year. So for that defensive line, and they've been down a couple of people, to be able to play with the disruptive force they did against Clemson, stopping Travis Etienne, not just from running the football, but as you know, he hurts people catching passes out of the backfield. Being able to influence Trevor Lawrence into the decisions he made, and then for the defensive backfield to play well enough against that outstanding group of receivers. The most impressive defensive performance we've seen all year.
And now they get ready for a very good offense in the Alabama Crimson Tide. Who are some of the playmakers, especially in the secondary, that'll be matched up against the likes of John Mechie, Devontae Smith, trying to slow down this Alabama, especially passing attack?
Well, the first guy that comes to mind is Shaun Wade, the All-American cornerback. He was a safety last year. He was a guy that wanted to come back for a chance to play at a national championship, and then decided he was going to leave when there wasn't going to be a season. And when the Big Ten reversed their course, Shaun Wade came back. He's the guy that's really going to be on the spot. And by a lot of people's accounts, Shaun Wade probably has not played as well as everybody expected him to play. Not that he's been awful, but he just hasn't played at the level that some of the defensive backs from a year ago have played. It certainly will put Sevyn Banks, the other corner, on the spot. And then really from there, you're looking at the safeties and how they can help, whether it's Marcus Hooker or Marcus Williamson. Josh Proctor, who had to step up big a few weeks ago when some people were down and injured, he's going to be a guy that's going to be important. But really the guy that will be on point is Shaun Wade.
And then looking at the coaching staff, led by Ryan Day, just what have you seen out of him going through this season? Obviously had to miss a game with COVID earlier in the year, but what do you make of the leadership of the Ohio State program with Ryan Day?
Roger, this has been an incredible story to see what he's done. And it really goes back to 2018 when he had to serve as the acting head coach for 3 games and for a whole summer camp when Urban Meyer was suspended. That's where really Ryan Day got on everybody's radar. And at the end of the 2018 season, I think everybody realized he was going to be a head coach someplace, but the timing worked out with Urban retiring, Ryan Day being here. I think the other amazing thing he's done is what he's done with the coaching staff, the people he's brought in. And even though he lost some of them after last year, like Mike Yurcich and Jeff Hafley, he's brought in outstanding coaches, keeping number 1 guys like Larry Johnson, bringing in Greg Madison and Al Washington on the defensive side, bringing Kerry Combs back after he'd been in the NFL to be a co-coordinator on defense and coaching the defensive backs, working hand-in-hand with Kevin Wilson as offensive coordinator. It's just done a remarkable job from that standpoint. Obviously, his connection to the quarterback positions, being that's kind of what he's known for, having played quarterback, has been incredible. But how he's handled this whole year, this whole situation, not knowing if there was going to be a season, campaigning for it, standing by his players, missing the Michigan State game, putting the coaching staff in a position to be able to handle that in his absence. Ryan Day is, he's done a remarkable job as a head coach. But I can tell you, Roger, also that from the media standpoint, Ryan Day is incredible to deal with, to work with for all of the things and all of the demands we put on head coaches for our needs with our network. Ryan Day is phenomenal about that.
Going back to Justin Fields, the quarterback, obviously took the big hit from Skalski and is a little bit banged up heading into this matchup against Alabama. Just what are you hearing about what he's able to do on the practice field trying to get ready for next Monday night?
Well, we're not hearing anything because Ohio State's very tight-lipped about that. They will release an availability report probably late afternoon, mid to late afternoon on Monday. But I know from the press conferences yesterday, Ryan Day was saying they expect Justin Fields to be fine. The fact that he came out and played the rest of that Clemson game, and there's been no other indication, at least any official indication or unofficial for that matter, that there's anything lingering from that. This is a young man that certainly won a lot of people over with how he handled that, but also he's done that with his ability. So certainly the anticipation is that Justin Fields will be fine.
Now we're getting ready for a national championship game, Ohio State against Alabama. Just when you've been able to watch the Crimson Tide, what stands out to you? And what did Ryan Day say yesterday about Alabama?
Knowing that it's an explosive team, explosive on both sides of the ball, offensively and defensively. And I think that, the thing that makes Alabama dangerous, yes, the individual players, when you think of Devontae Smith and Najee Harris and what Mac Jones has done, but how they can do it with so many different people and in so many different ways. Tight ends that play like wide receivers. And a defensive group that really has been helped by young players when you think about what you've seen, Will Anderson do, what you've seen Malachi Moore and Brian Branch do. So I know Ryan Day is very concerned about that. They know that, this is a team that has been the standard bearer, not only in the SEC, but in all of college football. And, there was the anticipation, and Ryan Day talked about, they were going to have to play their best football to beat Clemson, and they did. But there's an acknowledgement they're going to have to play even better football to have a chance of beating Alabama.
Well, we're certainly excited. Monday night, the national championship game in Miami, Alabama against Ohio State. And Paul, just thank you for your time today, breaking down the Buckeyes, getting us ready for this matchup. We know everyone's excited in Columbus, but again, thank you for your time, and we're looking forward to a great game, hopefully on Monday.
My pleasure, Roger. Always good to talk to you.
All right, that was Paul Keels, the voice of the Ohio State Buckeyes. Thank you for watching the Crimson Tide Sports Network.